You ever work for someone so incompetent, so painfully out of their depth, that every day felt like a slow spiral into madness? Now imagine that boss is also sexist, takes credit for your work, and genuinely thinks diversity is a threat. That was our boss. And after months of enduring his nonsense, we decided to do more than just quit. We plotted the kind of exit that would flip the entire department upside down, coordinated, ruthless, perfectly timed. What started as frustration turned into a masterpiece of revenge, and the best part, we got the last laugh. It started out like most jobs do, just another corporate gig with decent pay, bland coffee, and a vague promise of upward mobility. I joined the marketing team at a mid-sized tech company that looked good on paper. Collaborative, innovative, fast-paced. But behind the buzzwords and welcome emails was a boss so infuriatingly clueless, it was almost impressive. His name was Alan, middle-aged, golf-obsessed, and somehow always talking about how he missed the good old days. You know, the kind of guy who treats every meeting like a TED Talk no one asked for. Alan wasn't just out of touch, he was proudly outdated. And the worst part, he was my boss. Now, I'm not one to throw the word sexist around lightly, but Alan made it easy. He once told my coworker Dana, who holds a master's degree in digital strategy, that she should smile more in meetings because it helps the team morale. Another time, he asked if she was planning to get pregnant soon because, in his words, we just need to plan ahead for any disruptions. As if a literal human life was just an HR scheduling problem. Then there was Malik, our quiet, hyper-efficient analytics guy who could break down a multi-channel campaign in 10 minutes flat. Alan once told him he was surprisingly articulate. Yeah, let that sink in. And don't even get me started on Nadia, our design lead, who Alan routinely introduced as our Photoshop girl. Despite the fact that she had been the creative director behind 3 of our company's most successful ad campaigns. But incompetence doesn't stop at being offensive, it spills into every decision. Alan couldn't use Excel without printing out spreadsheets. He once approved a $15,000 spend on a social media influencer, who turned out to be a bot farm from Belarus. When we tried to warn him, he said we were too cautious and that risk-taking is what built America. Micromanagement was his love language. Every idea had to be run through him twice. He'd rewrite emails word for word, even ones that were already approved. He'd show up to our desks unannounced, lean over our shoulders with stale coffee breath, and say things like, "Let me drive this one," before completely derailing whatever we were working on. But the breaking point wasn't any single moment. It was the slow grind, the way our ideas were dismissed, the way meetings turned into monologues, the way Alan would publicly thank the only male team member for work we all did. And maybe worst of all, the gaslighting. When we'd raise concerns about workload or bias, he'd smile and say, "You've got to toughen up. This is the real world, huh?" That phrase stuck with me. Because in the real world, people like Alan rise, not because they read good, but because they've mastered the art of failing upward. In the real world, competent teams suffer under bad leadership. And in the real world, revenge isn't just personal. It's necessary. What made it bearable until it wasn't was my team. There were 6 of us who really held the ship together. Me, Dana, Malik, Nadia, Jess, and Luis. We joked in demiz, vented during lunch breaks, and survived by sheer force of camaraderie. We even had a shared Google Doc called Alanisms, where we logged his most ridiculous quotes. My personal favorite? "The internet is just a phase. Print will make a comeback." Yeah, he actually said that. By the time summer rolled around, we were all burned out. Morale was in the toilet. Nadia started freelancing on the side. Jess was in therapy. Malik was interviewing in secret. And me? I was mad, not just tired furious. Because people like Alan shouldn't get to coast through their careers while the rest of us clean up the mess. And that's when the idea first sparked, quietly, almost jokingly. What if we all just quit on the same day? The room went quiet, and then someone laughed. But it wasn't a joke. Not anymore. It was supposed to be a routine presentation, just another Monday morning stand-up with Alan leading the charge, armed with bullet points and that smug little smirk. The topic? Our latest campaign metrics. We'd crushed our goals thanks to Nadia's killer graphics, Malik's precision-targeted ad spends, and Dana's social strategy. It was a win across the board. We were actually excited to present. That was our first mistake. Alan walked in 5 minutes late, holding a Starbucks cup with his name spelled wrong like always, and opened with, "Let's keep this short. Some of us have real meetings to get to. Strike one." We presented clean, clear, backed by data and visuals. The vibe in the room was good, until Alan opened his mouth. "So, who actually came up with this strategy? Because this feels like something I'd have done back in the agency days. Strike two." Dana cleared her throat and said, "The team collaborated, but I led the overall rollout plan." Alan didn't even look at her. He just turned to Lisa, our newest hire and the only other man in the room, and said, "Nice job, buddy, you're catching on quick." The room went cold. Lise shifted uncomfortably. Dana's jaw clenched. Nadia blinked so hard it looked like she was buffering. Alan, oblivious as ever, kept talking over us. He even managed to refer to our core female demographic as chicks when discussing engagement trends. I looked across the table at Malik, who was just slowly shaking his head like, "Nah, this can't be real life." Then Alan wrapped up the meeting with his classic closer. "Let us tighten it up next time, team. We don't want to get too emotional about the numbers. Strike three. Game over." We didn't go back to our desks right away. Instead, we filtered into the break room like storm clouds. No one said anything for a second. Then Jess just snapped. "I swear to God, if I have to sit through one more meeting where that fossil treats Dana like his secretary, I'm going to throw his coffee out the window." Dana laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. "You think he even knows what I do here?" "He knows you're female. That's enough for him," Nadia said, rolling her eyes. Malik leaned on the counter, arms crossed. "I've had 3 of my reports disappear into Alan's inbox in the last 2 months. No reply, no feedback. Just gone." That's when I said it again, only this time not as a joke. "We should all quit. At the same time, just bounce." A beat of silence, then Jess smirking. "Like, coordinated quitting?" "Think about it," I said. We all hand in our notices on the same day, maybe even the same hour. Right before the holiday campaign launches. Leave him to explain it to upper management. Lise chuckled. "You guys are wild." But then Dana, who'd been quiet until now, said, "No, he's right. We've been covering for him. We've been keeping this place running while he takes the credit. If we all leave, it won't just sting, it'll expose him." The idea stuck. Like gum under a desk, it was hard to ignore. And the more we talked, the more real it felt. We started outlining timelines. Who had job interviews lined up? Who could coast a month or 2 if needed? Malik already had 2 offers. Jess was freelance ready. Nadia was halfway through onboarding a new client. We weren't stuck, we were just scared. But that fear was starting to shrink. Then came the twist. I had Alan's personal email. He once forwarded me something by accident and never noticed. That sparked a different kind of idea, something more personal. "We hit him where it hurts," I said. "Not just the schedule, his reputation, his peace of mind." The room got quiet again. This time it wasn't tension. It was potential. The wheels were in motion. Once the idea of quitting together took root, it grew fast like a rogue vine twisting through every Slack message, coffee run, and lunch break. What started as a venting session turned into a full-blown operation. Secret meetings? Check. Burner chats on Signal and Discord? Check. A shared Google Sheet titled Operation Bye Bye. Oh yeah. We were dead serious. We scheduled our accidental group coffee breaks at 10:17. Every day, just far enough off the hour to avoid suspicion. It became our unofficial war room. We'd crowd into a corner table at the cafe across the street, sip iced lattes, and trade updates like spies. "Malik, how's that job with the fintech company?" "They're offering remote, full benefits, and stock options. I'm 90% in." "Jess?" 3 freelance clients locked. 2 more pending. I'm ready. I was still interviewing but optimistic. Dana had a connection at a startup. Nadia had a client base from her side hustle. Luis was a wild card. He liked the chaos and was mostly in it for the drama. But when we asked him if he'd be down to jump ship, he grinned and said, "I'm not just down. I want front row seats when Alan panics." Once the crew was locked in, we focused on timing. We needed our exit to land like a punch in the gut. No soft goodbyes, no slow leaks. Just boom, gone. We studied the company calendar like generals studying enemy movements. The busiest time of the year was mid-October, when we were scheduled to launch our biggest ad campaign, yet one Alan had barely touched. Despite taking full credit for it in executive meetings, perfect, we circled a Friday, October 11th, 2 weeks before launch. Enough time to hit hard, but not enough for the company to pivot. Then came the prep work. Cover letters were flying. LinkedIn was our second home. Dana gave everyone access to her resume template, and we had mock interview nights on Zoom, like we were prepping for a school play. Nadia designed a sleek, downloadable portfolio site overnight. Jess crafted the perfect "why I'm leaving" email, firm, classy, and just shady enough to hint at what we'd endured. We all used her as a template. Meanwhile, I started keeping a running document titled Alan Receipts. Every cringe comment, every email he ignored, every sexist microaggression, we had it all. Not to burn him publicly, but just in case HR tried to spin it. We were building a record and it was airtight. Emotionally, though, that part was harder. Some nights I stared at my ceiling wondering if we were making a mistake. This was our income. Our health insurance. What if one of us got stuck between jobs? What if Alan retaliated in some sneaky corporate way? But then I remember how he made Nadia cry in a team meeting by calling her too sensitive for pushing back on a sexist ad pitch. Or how Dana was forced to work a weekend after she asked to attend her cousin's wedding because Alan forgot to approve her PTO. We weren't just running, we were done enabling. Still, we supported each other through the doubts. We had late-night group calls. We shared inspirational TikToks. Malik sent daily memes to boost morale. His favorite was a picture of a raccoon holding a knife with the caption, "Me when I send my resignation." We also prepared for possible fallout. Jess coached us on how to handle the exit interviews without spilling too much. "Be vague, be firm, and make HR do the work," she said. "Let them guess why we all quit at once." Dana planned to send her resignation at 9 o'clock a.m. sharp. The rest of us would follow in 20-minute intervals. One after another like dominoes falling, and each email would see CHR, the exec team, and each other. No chance of them missing the message. I can't lie, those last few weeks were weird. We smiled through meetings. We nodded at Alan's motivational speeches. We helped push projects to the finish line. But underneath it all was this giddy, electric buzz. We were sitting on a secret, a good one. A powerful one, and Alan, he had no clue. If anything, he thought morale was improving. "You guys are finally catching the vision," he said one day. We nearly laughed out loud. By the time September rolled around, the plan was locked. We even celebrated our last normal team lunch with a toast orange juice and overpriced bagels. "To revenge," I said, raising my glass. "To freedom," Nadia added. "To Alan's downfall," Malik smirked. It was happening. No turning back. While the synchronized resignations were the main event, we weren't just going to ghost Alan and let him off that easy. We needed to leave behind a legacy, one that would rattle his ego, and possibly shake the whole company into realizing just how deep his dysfunction ran. Step 1. Documentation. We had a full dossier, what we lovingly referred to as the Alan files. It was a shared folder containing every inappropriate comment, every ignored suggestion, every petty email where Alan CC'd executives just to blame someone else. Dana compiled a timeline of events dating back over a year. She was meticulous screen grabs, forwarded emails, even timestamps of Slack messages. She turned that chaos into a spreadsheet of doom. Nadia added a subfolder titled Visual Disrespect, where she collected projects that Alan had rejected only to later present similar ideas as his own, sometimes word for word. There was even a 12-slide presentation she made for a major campaign that Alan once called Too Edgy, which reappeared 3 weeks later under his name. We had receipts for that too. Malik, our data whisperer, set up an anonymous tip email to HR. He used a VPN and a burner email address. The message was short, professional, and damning. Several team members have experienced repeated sexism, credit theft, and hostile leadership from Alan. Attached is a timeline of documented behavior compiled over the last 8 months. If you value employee well-being, we suggest you investigate. We will not be around to clean up his messes any longer. Boom. Sent. But we weren't done. Weiss had a mischievous streak. One morning he grinned and said, "What if Alan started getting emails for weird job openings? Like really weird ones?" We all looked at him. Not spammy stuff. I mean legit, but totally absurd. And that's how Alan started receiving job offers from places like Cowding Analytics, AlphaBro Marketing, and faith-based Crypto Kingdom. Weiss used his personal email, the one Alan had accidentally shared months ago, to sign him up for job notifications from the deepest corners of the internet. He even crafted custom resumes under Alan's name to match the applications. One cover letter said, "I believe in building marketing strategy the same way I golf, blindly with confidence and usually off course." Another, "As a visionary leader stuck in the past, I offer traditional wisdom in a fast-paced digital world." We cackled for days, and then came the final touch. Glassdoor. We weren't about to go full scorched earth, but we wanted to make sure the next wave of potential employees saw behind the curtain. So we launched a campaign, anonymous, honest, and strategically written. One by one, we submitted reviews that told the truth without outright slander. Here are some highlights. Great team, supportive coworkers, upper management. Think Mad Men, but without the charm. Creative freedom exists, as long as you're a dude or named Alan. Be prepared to explain basic digital tools to your boss every day. Yes, even Excel. Imagine doing 110% of the work and watching your boss take 100% of the credit. That's life here. We didn't lie. We just told the truth, the kind of truth that companies try to bury under forced positivity and ping-pong tables. Every time a review got published, we'd high-five in the group chat. "Another nail in the coffin," Dana would say. We even convinced a few ex-employees to add their own stories. Turns out we weren't the first group Alan had driven to the edge, just the most organized. Looking back, it wasn't about being petty. It was about being thorough. We wanted Alan to feel the weight of what he'd created. We wanted HR to feel the sting of ignoring complaints. We wanted the next team to know they weren't crazy for feeling crushed under his incompetence. This wasn't just an exit, it was a message, carefully signed, sealed, and delivered. The house of cards Alan built. We didn't burn it down. We just pulled the bottom card and watched it collapse. October 11th. It was a regular Friday on the surface. The fluorescent lights flickered, the office smelled like burnt Keurig coffee, and Alan was, as always, 5 minutes late to our 9 a.m. team check-in. But we were ready. Every file was backed up. Every task was tied up. We had all cleared our personal devices. It was go time. At exactly 8:59 a.m., Dana sent the first email. Subject: Resignation, Dana Lewis. The message was polite, firm, and direct. Effective 2 weeks from today, I am resigning from my role. Thank you for the opportunities. I wish the team well. She CC'd HR, she CC'd Alan, she CC'd us. The room was still quiet, no one had read it yet. 9:17 a.m., Jess's turn. Then 9:35 a.m., Malik. 9:52 a.m., Lise. Each message followed the same structure. Clean, cold, precise. No rants. No drama, just withdrawal. Alan didn't check his email until 10:06 a.m., when he strolled into the office with a bagel and a too loud Bluetooth headset, shouting about pivoting Q4 strategy. Then he sat down. His first reaction was confusion. You could actually see the color drain from his face as he opened Dana's email. Then Jess's, then Malik's, each one stacking on top of the next like a slow-building avalanche. "What the hell?" he muttered. He called Malik first, didn't get an answer. Then Dana straight to voicemail. Lise was at his desk but popped in his AirPods and said, "Sorry, can't talk, wrapping up my last projects." At 10:58 a.m., Nadia's email hit. Alan stood up. He looked around, arms half raised like a preacher trying to quiet a restless congregation. "Can I get everyone's attention?" No one looked up. He started pacing, first the break room. Then HR. We heard him in the hallway, his voice echoing off the glass. "This is some kind of joke, right? Is this a prank? Where's the camera?" It wasn't a prank, it was a reckoning. At 11:15 a.m., I hit send. Resignation number 6, the final domino. Alan stormed into our pod like a hurricane in a cheap blazer. What's going on, all of you? You can't just leave like this, we have deadlines. He actually slammed his hand on the divider wall. Dana glanced up and said, "We gave our notice. We're allowed to do that. But why?" I think he genuinely didn't know. That was the wildest part. He looked like a man betrayed by a group of people he never respected to begin with. "Alan," Malik said gently, "you've been taking credit for our work. You've disrespected every woman on this team. You've dismissed valid feedback for months. This isn't sudden. You just weren't listening." Alan's face twisted. First disbelief, then indignation. "You're overreacting, all of you. This is childish, quitting together like it's some kind of stunt. That's not how professionals act. Neither is asking a designer if she's on her period because she didn't like your font choice," Jess muttered. Silence. He looked like he'd been slapped. HR called an emergency meeting. Too little, too late. Our notices were formal. The countdown had begun. We were out. The rest of the day was surreal. People from other departments started noticing the mass exodus. Whispers turned into full-blown hallway discussions. "Did you hear? The whole marketing team just quit." By lunchtime, Alan was holed up in his office, door closed, blinds drawn. We heard him yelling on the phone, probably trying to do damage control. Nadia left a sticky note on his door that just said, "Good luck with Q4. Our inboxes were flooded with 'Can we talk?' emails from HR. We ignored most of them. A few of us wrote brief summaries in the exit surveys, but honestly, we didn't need to say much. Our silence said everything. By 3 p.m., our Glassdoor reviews started gaining traction. Someone from recruitment DM'd Jess on LinkedIn asking if the posts were real. "Oh, they're real," she replied. People from other departments started coming up to us in private engineering, sales, even finance. "I've never seen anything like this," one guy whispered. "You guys are legends." It didn't feel legendary yet. It felt scary. My hands were shaking when I packed my desk. There's a weird kind of grief that comes with leaving even when you know it is right. But then I saw Dana smiling at her screen. Malik was bumping a playlist titled Corporate Escape. Lise had brought in cupcakes. The vibe? Celebration. We didn't walk out at once. We trickled. Quiet goodbyes. No drama, just grace. But as I stepped into the elevator, box in hand, I saw Alan through the glass wall of his office alone, disheveled, clutching his phone like it might explain everything. It didn't. He was on his own now. The Monday after our mass resignation felt like the calm after a controlled demolition silent, but heavy with impact. We were gone, but the echo of what we'd done reverberated through the building. We heard the first wave of chaos from our contacts who stayed behind. HR scrambled to assemble a temporary task force to keep campaigns on life support. Alan spent all Monday morning trying to run things solo, pulling together incomplete project files, attempting to brief freelancers and tripping over software he didn't understand. Apparently, he even tried to recreate the Q4 strategy deck we had built over months. Jess had stripped the version we left behind of all context. Slides were titled, "Insert Insight Here," and "Creative Goes Here." A masterpiece in passive-aggressive sabotage. By Tuesday, senior management started asking questions. The VP of Marketing scheduled one-on-ones with remaining staff. People talked, not in anger but with relief. Finally, someone had taken a stand. Then came the HR audit. Dana's anonymous dossier, the Allen files, was reviewed internally. So was Malik's burner tip timeline. Combined with our strategic exit surveys and Glassdoor reviews, the company had no choice but to confront the elephant in the room. A week later, Alan was placed on administrative leave. 2 weeks later, he was transitioning out of the company. That was the official language, internally. Everyone knew he was toast. We never got a direct apology. But a few ex-teammates got emails from HR thanking them for their honest feedback and saying the company was committed to rebuilding a safe, respectful work environment. Too little, too late, but validating all the same. As for us, we flourished. Malik accepted the fintech role and moved into a lead data strategist position. Full remote, double his old salary, and they actually respected his time. He now gives guest lectures at a local university and mentors junior analysts. Jess exploded in the freelance world. One of her clients featured her in a blog titled, "The Secret Weapon Behind Our Marketing Turnaround." She sends Alan's name to spam on instinct. Nadia launched her own design studio. The campaign Alan once called "Too Edgy" went viral when repackaged under her own brand. She was invited to speak at a digital design summit 2 months later. Lise got a position at a competitor, ironically in a team led by a woman who used to work under Alan and also hated him. He now works 3 hours less and gets to bring his dog to the office. Dana joined a fast-growing startup as their head of strategy. She said it was like going from the Titanic to a rocket ship. They actually let her lead, and in her first month, she doubled their engagement numbers. And me? I landed at a media agency that respects boundaries, pays well, and get this, doesn't center meetings around one dude's ego. It felt weird at first, like waiting for something to go wrong. But eventually, I realized this is what it feels like to work with grown-ups. The best part, we stayed connected. A couple of us started a group chat called the Survivors Club, and we meet up once a month for drinks, memes, and job updates. Sometimes we laugh about the chaos we left behind. Sometimes we just appreciate how far we've come. Alan? Well, the last we heard, he tried consulting. He posted a ranted blog on LinkedIn about the dangers of groupthink and how companies are too soft these days. It got 6 likes, 3 from bots and 1 from a golf buddy. Poetic. In the end, our revenge wasn't just about taking him down. It's about building ourselves up. We didn't scream. We didn't sabotage. We just left the truth behind us and let the silence do its work. Turns out, nothing is louder than walking away. There's a moment after the dust settles where you stop bracing for impact and realize you're free. That's how it felt in the weeks following our mass exodus. At first, it was surreal. I'd wake up on Monday expecting to feel dread, but instead, nothing. No gut punch. No eye-roll-inducing emails. Just quiet. And in that quiet, there was peace. Relief hit first. The kind that settles into your shoulders, your spine, your sleep. Then came the pride because we hadn't just left. We'd orchestrated a perfectly timed, coordinated exit that shook a broken system at its core. We stood up to power the only way we could, together and on our own terms. Every so often, I'd find myself scrolling through old Slack threads, rereading jokes, saved memes, and even that cursed Alanisms document, not out of regret but out of gratitude. That team, those people, they were the best part of that job. We held each other up in the storm, and when it got bad enough, we didn't just survive. We strategized. It's wild looking back on how long we tolerated the nonsense. The microaggressions, the erasure, the constant suffocating incompetence from someone paid to lead but too insecure to listen. There's something about bad bosses, they make you doubt your own instincts. You start wondering if maybe you're the problem. But the moment we aligned, shared our truths, and planned our escape, everything changed. We weren't powerless. We were just isolated. And once we moved as one, it was like watching a wall crumble with a single unified push. I think a lot about the power of silence, not the kind that keeps you quiet out of fear, but the kind you wield intentionally. When we walked out, we didn't make a scene. We didn't scream or cry or burn bridges. We were polite, strategic, and surgical, and that's what made it hit harder. We didn't just leave Alan's kingdom, we exposed how fake his crown really was. The satisfaction wasn't just in watching him scramble. It was in knowing that our absence spoke louder than years of ignored complaints ever could. The company had no choice but to reckon with the void we left behind. If there's one lesson I carry now, it's this. Revenge doesn't have to be messy to be effective. You don't need to hack someone's inbox or trash their office to make a point. Sometimes, the cleanest revenge is leaving behind a broken system and letting it collapse under its own weight, especially when the people propping it up decide they had enough. And let's be real, there was nothing illegal or underhanded about what we did. No rules broken. Just 6 people finally choosing themselves over a paycheck, over silence, over one man's bloated ego. We didn't burn the bridge, we just stopped holding it up. Now, when I see my old coworkers thriving, when I read another headline about a toxic exec being transitioned out, Or when someone messages me for advice on how to leave a bad job, I smile. Because our story is not just a revenge tale, it's a blueprint. In the end, we didn't need to scream, fight, or sabotage. We let our silence, our planning, and our absence do the talking. Sometimes the best revenge isn't explosive, it's surgical. We left, we thrived, and we watched the chaos from a distance, wine in hand. And if our old boss is still wondering what happened, maybe just maybe he'll think twice before treating his next team like garbage. So if you've ever wanted to walk out of a toxic job with flair, remember, revenge is best served as a team effort. And damn, it tastes good. Like and subscribe for more stories like this.